just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your dog life journey.
Okay, well, well, my name is Marco de Kruijk. I live in the Netherlands. I breed Staffords bull terriers with the Quinlent prefix. I founded the Staffords bull terrier sporting club, the Netherlands, and from that followed the Staffords bull terrier sporting club of Norway, France, Italy, United States, even Finland, Denmark, and so on. I organize an annual event known as the Dutch Stafford Athletics, in which we test the bull breeds. It's for pit bulls as well as it's for Staffords, in a explicit way, but still very humane. Mm-hmm. And we have on each event we have about 120 dogs competing. I started these dogs, these particular dogs. I grew up with dogs. I can't remember not having a dog by my side. But with these bull breeds, I started back in 1988, 1989. I happened to found a pit bull terrier, and it was a little bit torn to pieces by another dog. I think I brought it home. I looked it after, and we became mates, and he lived with me until old age. Just a couple of years later, we went on to a dog show, and we were looking for the American Staffordshire Terriers and stuff like that. And it was my wife saying, "Oh my God, I think you should come and see these. I think these are way more what you like." And she brought me to the ring of Staffordshire Bull Terriers, and I think it was 1990, something like that. And since then I'm involved, basically.
Wow. Can you talk about your evolution with staffies and what really was the deciding factor for you to go deep into them?
I'm a dog trainer by profession.
Oh, okay.
And what we notice is when you have a retriever or you have a shepherd or even when you have a kelpie or a border collie with a high drive in the work that they're used to do, you can always find alternatives for what they were originally bred for. When you have a Staffordshire Bull Terrier or a pit bull or an Amstaff, and then it's very hard to say, well, okay, find an alternative for fighting. And it was something like, well, as a trainer of dogs, I always struggled with the parts where I said, well, I can't find a way to please the dog with the things that really there, because it does not suit their nature. So basically, from training them, I got involved, and it got me in deeper. And I started with the idea of trying to find a way that these dogs could be themselves without doing the damage or without having to harm themselves. And being grown up with dogs, breeding was a natural step to do. On the other hand, I must say that I am a dog trainer breeding dogs, mm-hmm. and I'm not a dog breeder training dogs, and that's a very big difference. I breed dogs that I can train, mm-hmm. And that's how I got in. That's how I got in, and then I started with well, I must say, without being too disrespectful, but I started with the dogs that were available back in the day. They were complete crap dogs. Yeah. There were not many really good solid dogs. A lot was wrong with them to solve. So there was a challenge in breeding as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What I want is above all is the correct temperament. Mm-hmm. You always want the staffy to be a little bit the bad boy in the classroom, if you know what I mean. You don't want him to be a complete psychopath, but you want him to be the naughty one. You want him to be the one that gets into trouble. And a good Stafford, I've always said, a good Stafford will bring you into trouble. It's their nature. that's what I seek for. If I look at a dog and when the eyes do not sparkle, full of life, when they do not give you that liveliness in their expression, they won't be no good for me. I really want that expression in their eyes. I really want that, and I want them to have a body that can live up to what that mind is planned to do. So soundness is very, very important for me. So I really want the dog to move very good. I want the dog to have good, strong top lines and deep briskets. I want them to breathe easily, and that's a very difficult thing on Staffords, because I think a lot more than in pit bulls. Basically it's a little bit the same as what you see today with the original pit bull and the bully XL. Yeah. Basically, the Stafford has undergoing the same history when they took these dogs to dog show. When they say the front legs should be wide apart, they didn't understand that it should be wide apart because the front compared to the back has to be just a little bit more heavy boned, to not be destroyed by the first bite that another dog gave on the legs. So they start breeding dogs with chests way too wide. When then somebody starts to say they should have a barrel rib cage, and they were breeding dogs that could not even functionally breed. So there's a lot of things going on in Staffords that are so easily exaggerated, because the majority of people involved with these dogs do not have what it takes to know what these dogs should be about. Mm-hmm. And it's often better to explain to people, to say, okay, if you want to understand the standard of the Staffordshire Bull Terrier that we all should be breeding for, it's better to look at the ADBA standard, the way this description is done, and then just make that dog a little bit smaller than it is, and then you're closer to what it should be than the exaggerations that people build on it nowadays. So that's it. I prefer them to be around 15, 16 inch for a female, a 16, 17 inch maximum for a male. The weight depends, but I prefer them to be a little bit on the light side. I don't like a dog to be too heavy. They take too much air. They gain too much muscle on these sides. So if I look at the average for my males, they are in between 15 to 16 kilos. I can't tell you exactly how many pounds that is, but in between 15 and 16 kilo for a male suits me fine. 13 to 15 kilo for a female will do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. The sporting event that you do, and what all does that entail?
Oh yeah, I can talk about that. I just talked over the entire weekend because we've got this COVID-19 lockdown, and normally I do it this weekend. So it's always at Easter weekend, and it couldn't. I had to cancel it. The government told me I couldn't do it. Right. It's a discipline. It's a tournament based on 10 different athletic disciplines. So try to understand that it's going to be A-frame, long jumping, high jumping, 10-mile bike race, 50-meter sprint, 100-meter sprint, drag pull, hang time, tug of war, and I'm missing one. Treadmill. Mm-hmm. So these 10 disciplines are actually they are done in 2 days to be finished on second Easter day. On Monday morning we finished the tournament with a 10-mile bike race, and we count all the scores. The scores are written down in an application, and the application calculates the scores, and then you have at the end of it the dog that collects the most points has won the tournament.
Oh, that's awesome! And
it's a system that we will be doing now. This year would have been I think it would be the 12th event that we will do, and. It's fantastic. It's all the sports are made from what all the bull and terriers in their nature like to do. Every bull and terrier that you have has a tendency to grab things and to shake it and to battle and to they need challenges. And every dog originally that was used for a little bit of contest in the way of fighting or whatever, they also needed some air. So we also test the air by giving them a 10-mile bike race. And the staffies, they are impressive, really. If you compare to, we have pitbulls competing and bull terriers, American Staffordshire terriers, and the Staffordshire bull terriers. For the moment, the world records in our sports are kept by Staffordshire bull terriers. Mm-hmm. So we often hear that the pitbull is a very large group, and they have a big group of fans. And some of them are really exceptional, I must say. We have some here in the Netherlands, and then you look at them, then you think, oh my God, beautiful performing animals. Mm-hmm. But what we did in this Dutch Stafford Athletics, and later on we called it the Stafford Olympics because there are so many countries involved organizing this event. When we look at it, everything is calculated down to the size of the dog. Mm-hmm. And that gives the contest a complete different view. And what we did is we valued certain results mm-hmm. towards the belt system of the similar like karate. So you can grade up until a black star, and then that's the highest level that you need to do for your championship. So when you got 10 black stars, our organization calls your dog a champion.
Okay.
And a 14-inch dog, for instance, on a track mill, they need to run 85 times 40 meters mm-hmm. In 10 minutes. But when you have an 18-inch pitbull, he needs to run 105. Oh, okay. Now, that's a handicap rule there. And but it's a fair handicap rule. We see that it happens. We see that the larger dog, an 18-inch dog, can easily do that. But we even see a 14-inch Staffordshire Bull Terrier doing 100, 108, 109. Mm-hmm. A 15-inch Staffordshire Bull Terrier has already done 112. So these scores are rather fair. Mm-hmm. In the end, when all the dogs from all the different classes has put up a lineup, and they say we all have a black star, then of course the largest dog has gained the most points, and he will win, mm-hmm. because at the end that has done the most. Mm-hmm. So it's still fair, even though there is a handicap. The handicap is only where the black star is given, but as soon as the black star is given to a larger dog compared to the smaller dog, then the larger dog will win over the smaller dog. Mm-hmm. It's proven to be over the years a very fair calculation of points in a very very fair scale in how the dogs perform, and it's a very interesting competition to follow. There is in the United States at this moment Scott Ashwood. He lives in Alabama, and he's about to organize. We've got competing from Pennsylvania, Ty Gaffney, and a few other more people in the States are also interested in what we are doing, and to bring it over to that side. We had Calvin Murphy coming over judging. He's from Kruijk Kennels, I believe Dallas, Texas, that he comes from, and he once judged at one of our shows. So also from the United States, there's a lot of interest for what we do, because what we do is a complete physical test for the bull and terrier breeds without harming them. Right. And we, as a bull and terrier man, of course, I'm also in contact sometimes with people that say, yeah, Michael, but listen, they are not as tough as fighting dogs and everything. I said, well, fighting is always a different game, but there's a lot of more glory to gain when you win one of our contests. You know, when a fighting dog did win over 5 dogs, you can call him a champion. But to win one of our tournaments, he has to beat 111 dogs. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot more glory to gain in what we do, and we hope that especially our sports can help to give this breed, and that's why I designed the sports, to give this breed a sport that is recognized, that is as a proper test for them, and that does them no harm at the end. And that's what we wanted. We had a lot of dog fighting going on back in the 80s and the early 90s here in the Netherlands, and there's no good for any breed to be involved in those things. From a government perspective, it's one of the most easiest things you can do.
Yeah.
Just make them illegal, and as soon as you see somebody with one of these dogs, you can take the dog. Yeah. Or when they become a threat, you can prosecute them. In the Netherlands, we are a little bit fortunate for the moment, and that's always for the moment when it's concerned about governments, that you are responsible for the damage your dog does. Mm-hmm. So there's a different sense of responsibility in the people. And that's an important thing, because here in the Netherlands it is, when your dog does damage to another dog or to another person, you as a person are the one that is responsible. And the government can keep you responsible for that. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that's a good thing on one hand. On the other hand, we all have to realize that the bull breeds are not for everybody. No. They require a certain amount of responsibility. When I'm out in the fields and I'm working my dogs, and I can be irritated by everybody that has their dog loose, being a threat to the well-being of mine. But I am the one that needs to be the most clever person, and I say, okay, I need to pick up my dog and make sure that nothing happens, because I've got a bull breed. It's part of the responsibility that goes along with these dogs. Right. I started training dogs when I was a little kid, actually, mm-hmm. And when I was a young kid, I was looking at Malinois back home, mm-hmm. and they were working for police and stuff like that. And my father was always, he was my foster father, and he always was very, very hot on a dog has to obey, they has to listen. Mm-hmm. And that was he always said. It's in Dutch. It's to say, I moet luisteren. That means he has to listen. And I was always watching the dogs, and I learned that looking at these dogs, there were quite a few. That the one that was the leader of the pack, he did never make a sound. The only thing he controlled the group, he did just by his appearance. And I looked at and studied at this group, and I learned that the group responded most of the times towards what he showed rather than the sound that he made. Mm-hmm. And I started to get the idea that we as humans were forcing our own kind of communication up onto a kind of dog or to a kind of animal that doesn't understand what we were trying to put across. So I said one day, I said to him, I said, listen, you always say that a dog has to listen. He said, yeah, that's true. I said, well, dogs don't listen. They read. Mm-hmm. They don't listen to what you say. They read what you are doing, and what you say basically only is a confirmation. No, it was a confirmation. I think that's the right word in English. Mm-hmm. So English is not my main language, but yeah. I do my best. It's a confirmation of what you are showing to them. Mm-hmm. First your body has to say, and then your mouth just have to say, that's exactly what I mean. It can make a little bit more powerful in what you have already shown. You can give the hardest command, but as soon as your body says you're insecure, no dog will respond properly. So I told him that, and I was about 6-7 years old, so I got a smack on the head, because in those days it was not appropriate to be telling somebody else that they were doing wrong. I got a smack on the head, and in the meantime I was given a dog, and he said, if you know so much better, take this dog and see where you get. And I started training the dog, and with the same principles that I'm still teaching today in my dog school. I've trained over 7,000 dogs, so it's quite a number in my dog centers. And I still call it the in silent mode. I prefer to talk as less as possible to the dogs. The only things that I like to do is to encourage them with my voice to make sure that they understand what I'm telling them to do. And I work a lot with signals. And I always teach my people that come for training to my dog center. I always say to them, a dog can listen about 30 times better than you. So when you are giving your dog voice commands, and you teach him that he has to use his ears all the time, he's not paying attention with two of the most important things that he uses most of the time, which are his vision. The vision of a dog it's incredible the way they can use their eyes and detect movement and their nose. So I said, when you are always there to shout after your dog, there's no reason for the dog to turn around and look at you. Mm-hmm. But as soon as you stop using that and you use your body language like dogs do in the wild, you have to keep an eye on them. They have to keep an eye on you. They need to know what is going on when you are in charge. So that's how we train dogs. It works for Staffords, it works for pitbulls, it works for shepherds. It doesn't matter what breeds. I train all breeds of dogs in the center, and I love doing it. I still love doing it. I'm doing it since I think 1990, something like that. Fun obedience training. I like scent training, agility, athletics. I like to go out. We do bike joring, a lot of things. My major phrase I want to say to everybody is dogs need running. Every dog needs to get out and make his miles to cover. That's one of the main things that people should do when they have dogs. Take the dogs out and go on the road, hit the forest, search the mountains. We don't have that in the Netherlands, though. We don't have any mountains. I always make a joke when I say, well, when your wife becomes as flat as Holland, it's time to trade her in. It's a pancake where we live. Right. But you need to find the exciting stuff to take your dog out, and that's what you need to do to bond. So yeah, that's what I teach people. And then of course you got the average, the obedience stuff, like when they have to sit, they have to go down, they have to stay, they need to heel, proper work like that, they need to retrieve, they need to jump, they need to all the stuff that's being taught around dog training centers in the world. So sometimes a dog is so spoiled in such a way, and he misbehaves in such a way that there seems to be a necessity to use a shock collar. I always say I never like using them, and I never like putting them on a dog. I think, but the only reason I am using a shock collar on a dog is when it could save his life. Right. When you say that the dog's behavior is of such bad quality that if we would not interfere using that shock collar, teaching him differently, it would mean that we have to end his life. Mm-hmm. But I don't like it. No.
Right.
I think that as soon as you start to use stuff like that, you are missing the true connection, what it means in having and training dogs. I think that when you use such force on a dog, you are doing no good. There's a difference. We are humans and they are dogs. We're not the same species, and when you need to develop yourself as a trainer from a human perspective, communicating with another species, and you want it to do in the way that the dog becomes useful to you. Sadism and dog training are not the same thing, and I think that when you use collars, shock collars, and everything, it's closer to sadism than it is to dog training.
I 100% agree with you. It's always been kind of a weird thing because, I'm not super knowledgeable, but what I do know is personally, it'd be something that I would never use, and I just don't. I don't understand the trend. Why is why are people just relying so much on this? And it seems like it's just an easy way to get a dog to do what you want right now, and it's a quick way for the trainer to make a quick buck and look like he's a genius.
Yeah, it's like pressing the button on time and you receive a bill.
Yeah.
To me, the dog training is not like that. Because dog training, and this, I think this is something, Sean, I can put across. I think that a lot of people has lost the essence of having dogs.
Yeah.
They think that's okay. You buy a dog and it's cute and it's fun and it's great to have. And you can go to dog show, you can do this and they can do that, but they forget. And I see that a lot also with modern people coming to my dog center, is that they forget that the essence of having a dog, that you are choosing for a certain lifestyle, and then they buy a dog because they want to have it, and then the dog starts to get bored. I think out of the 1,000 problem cases you have with dogs, I think 999 of the dogs are completely bored in their life.
Right.
The people are not doing anything with them. The dog starts to develop certain behavior to get a certain amount of attention, and then that needs to be solved. Instead of people saying, okay, wait a second, I made a choice, I choose to have a dog in my life. That egoistic approach today, I think, is the reason why people easily come forward with a shock collar, and then you have a dog trainer saying, I can change that behavior, I can make sure that he never does it again, and you pay him. I'm not that kind of trainer. When you come to me, I very clearly say, it's you that has to change your style of life suitable to the dog you've chosen. Mm-hmm. And when they come to me with a puppy and for training, Sean, I always ask, why did you buy this dog? What are you going to do with it? What life have you? What are your plans in life? And it's when you listen to the answers of the people, the majority says, yeah, I just want a companion. But in my book, having a companion means that you have to sacrifice a lot of your own time, because that's you need to give that to the companion you've chosen.
Right. Exactly. What are some breeds of dogs that when they come to your school that you kind of like, these are hard to train?
Oh, the toughest one at the moment are those we have in the Netherlands. We have the KMPV.
Yes.
I don't know if you are familiar with them. We from the Netherlands, a lot of dogs are imported to the USA. We have the KMPV, and the breeding of the KMPV Malinois type of dog gives a lot of trouble. That gives a lot of trouble. These dogs are so specialized in police work that as soon as they are ending up in a family, they're causing trouble. And you really need to teach the people who have a pup like this a lot about what the nature of these dogs is and what they can expect. They give a lot of work. The pit bulls and the pit bull crosses, and the results of all the maniacs working in these types of dogs, they are horrifying. Actually, I think it was a year ago that I've been attacked by one of these dogs, and I am a 106 kilo muscle on my own, and I'm strong and I'm healthy. But what this dog did to a female, what he did to me, she could not have get him off, and he would have killed it. What people have forgotten is that when you are working and living your life with bull and terriers, and I call everything bull and terriers. If they are English bull terriers, or they're American pit bull terriers, or they are Staffordshire bull terriers, they all originate to one family, which is the bull and terrier type. I don't care if they're Irish, if they're to me, that's all the same thing. But as soon as you are involved in these dogs, you must be very clear about one thing: is that every form of aggression towards humans must directly, immediately be eliminated. When a pit bull is aggressive towards humans, it's the same for a Stafford. If one of my Staffords is aggressive to humans, he's straight to the vet. Straight to the vet. We will never accept any form of aggression of these type of dogs towards humans. And then I look at the internet and I see that it becomes popular using all these breeds for protection work. And it's in my book, that's wrong. If you want to do protection work, don't get these dogs. Get a Malinois or get something else that's suitable, that's perfected for that job. But don't use these dogs. And I'm very, 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 very clear in that. And I trained. I must admit, I trained some of these for shoot soon, for IPO and everything. And it's exactly those experiences that made me say, listen, don't do this with these dogs. Don't do it with these dogs. Get other breeds to do that. Use these dogs for a lot of other recreational stuff. Love them for what they physically can do. Try to find physical challenges for these dogs. Go out with them, but please understand that as soon as we are talking about bull and terrier breeds, that they must be completely friendly to humans under all circumstances. A very beautiful breed is the South African bull. It has a very strong protective energy. When you keep it behind the fence, they will protect your family at all times. Still, to the family, they are the most friendly dogs to have. That's a kind of breed. I would search for the breeds that have that naturally in them. And that's exactly what Staffords and pit bulls and all these other dogs should not have in them. They should not have that natural drive to protect. That's a complete misunderstanding of the origins of the bull and terrier breeds. So I would look at dogs like that. A Rottweiler will do a fantastic job. A good Malinois, a Dutch Shepherd, German Shepherds. There's so many dogs to call that can do that job because they are much easier to differentiate. They're much better in differentiating than the bull breeds. Yes, you have to look at it like this. And I've been asked the other day on an American forum board because I was saying to someone who was doing protection with the Staffordshire Bull Terrier that he got from Italy, and I said to him it's not wise to do, and I didn't want to go into any debate. The reason why it is not wise to do is that these kind of dogs they have been bred to instinctively attack, and that's what the game is in a pit bull and a Stafford and etc. was meant throughout the centuries. As soon as the dog was game, that he would instinctively attack, which means is that he has to do it without even knowing that he's doing it. It means that it is in his complete nature to attack. And with all these dogs, if you teach them to attack a human, they instinctively can attack a human, and that means that they will not stop. And then you're going to have the most dangerous situations you can think about. These dogs are not for that. These dogs are there as family companions. They are there as superb sporting dogs. You can better take your Staffordshire Bull Terrier to an agility field or to a frisbee match than you take him to an IPO or a shoot soon field.
What are your suggestions for starting training with a puppy? What does that look like for you?
Well, for me, starting with a puppy puppy time means playtime. It means that everything that you do has to be in a very playful way. As soon as something is a puppy, it is learned. The puppy needs to learn, and the puppy will learn where it will get his confidence. Too many training forms we see today, like the shock collars that you mentioned earlier, they are not based on giving a positive. How do I say this in English? A positive confidence but it brings in insecure behavior. And when you are breeding up a puppy, it's not about, it's generalizing the behavior. Where you say, I want a little bit less of that, and I'm going to tell him that I want a little bit less of that by giving him a little bit more of this. And that way the dog will choose to go for that part where he got the most success. So he leaves the part away. He stays away with the part that you do not want. And that's the approach that we do on puppies. We are with puppies. It's playtime, and during the playtime we say, okay, this is how you need to do. But it all starts with one thing, and that's when people come to my dog training center. I ask them the very simple questions: what are the goals you have with your dog? Because you buy a dog, for instance, say you buy an Australian Kelpie, and you say, I bought this dog. It's so awesome. And I asked the person, what are you going to do with the dog? He said, I just want an awesome companion. And what are you going to do with the dog? What are the goals for the dog? I don't know, he just has to obey, and I want a companion. Imagine yourself working for a company with the same attitude towards you. When you cannot grow, when you cannot develop, when you do not get a compliment, when you do not get any confidence, where you cannot get a little bit a better salary by improving harder, you're going to have a very brain dead life. And it's the same for dogs. So I always tell people with dogs, when they come with a puppy, I say, what are the goals you have with the dogs? What do you want to do? And those people that say, I just want a companion and give them a walk on Sunday afternoon, for me it's very difficult not to say to say get out of my face. Those are completely the wrong reasons to get a dog. To get a dog is when you get a border collie, you need to find a way. If you do not like it to throw a frisbee instead when you have no sheets, then you should not get one of these dogs. So that's where it all starts. Start with what is the goal you have for your dog? Right. What is the lifestyle you have in mind? And then you start developing your dog for that what you have in mind. And then everything becomes a lot more easy. And then sometimes people come, of course, and it happens to everybody. They come with a dog and they have a lifestyle in mind which does not suit the dog. When you come to the field with a bull mastiff and you say, I want to do agility, something's been wrong in that grey mass in your head, because it's not going to happen. You know what I mean?
No. So when you have a litter of staffies and you're going to keep a pup, what is your philosophy on which pup you're going to keep, and what are the things that you specifically look for?
There's one word: vigor. Vigor. I look for vigor. I'm always with my nose on the whelping box. I never want to miss the first hour. When I'm in the whelping box and the puppies are born in a normal way, I always want to see how they act as soon as they come out of their mother. And basically, I make a pre-selection directly when they pop out of the mother, when they break out of the amnion, and the mother starts cleaning them. And when you see a lot of liveliness in that puppy, and they start searching for the nipple directly, those are the things that I search for in the first moments. Vigor is key to life. If a dog doesn't have the vigor, he will not be able to live a life full of sports. And when a dog stays in my home, that's what he needs to do: live a life full of sports. So vigor is very important. Then I look for the soundness. I measure all the pups. I want the shoulders to be in good length. I want the upper arm to be in good length. I want the legs to be in good length. I want them to have good solid feet underneath. It's easy measurement. And then eventually it's the one with the most vigor and the most sound body is the one that is a prospect to me. And I do not care about if a dog has a little bit of longer muzzle or a little bit of shorter muzzle, or an ear is completely correct and neat on the head. I do not search for these details. I search for vigor and physical soundness. And then later on, when the puppies grow and the eyes open and everything more, you start to see, okay, which one picks up certain things the fastest, so which one uses the brain the most, and which one uses the nose the most, and that way you can find out, okay, I can use this and I can use that. Right. At the level of breeding I am now today, Sean, I have got pedigrees, and then when you see the 8th generation pedigree of the puppy, all the dogs in the pedigree are my own. So having that said, and we started with about 4 dogs, so you can understand that we know exactly what we can expect from each combination that we make.
Right. What are some breeds that you really enjoyed, but you've never really owned yourself? But you really like their personalities.
Well, if you promise me not to laugh, but I really love the poodles.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really love the poodles. Yeah. I never had one. I worked with one. I worked with one once, and I see them in my dog training center. I've got bull terriers, and but I really love the poodles. Yes. Yeah, that's exactly true. People see them as the cute ones, so with the dog show, you see them with these harlequin coops on them, and people in fancy clothing parading around. But when you have once seen a poodle work, there can only be one thing: your mouth is falling open, and you can only admire that dog to the fullest. Yeah. Unbelievable, the soundness in that breed, and the way they move, the way they use their brains. The cleverness, the also a little bit that naughtiness in them, the way they can cover ground, the way they swim, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's an amazing breed, truly.
I kind of felt that same way when I saw for the first time a real serious giant schnauzer. I always kind of dismissed them because of their haircuts and what you saw on the show. But when I saw a giant schnauzer up close doing real work, it was just, that was an eye opener.
That's an awesome dog. Trust me.
Yeah.
I had one in the training. I think it's about 1.5 years ago. And it was a lady. She had she bought this dog, and it was a working dog. It's one of those things where you say, okay, this is somebody that wanted a pet, and that came home with a proper working dog. Right. And you can't have a bigger misconception than somebody that wants a pet and that ends up with a working dog. And it was a recent schnauzer, and. She came to my training, and I taught her a few things, and she followed a few courses with me, and I said, please take your dog to the KMPV field, start doing field and protection work with him, and you're going to have an absolute fantastic dog and a great hobby with him. That's what suits him best, and I think you as a person likes it the most. And she came to me, when was it? I think it was last autumn. She came to me and she said, I want to thank you so much for pointing me out in that direction, because I have learned so much about my dog. But also when I was working in the suit, and you can have a shepherd on your head, in your suit and everything, but when one of these big schnauzers comes and hits you, man, that is what an utterly bunch of power that is. Yes, schnauzers are fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
The smaller dogs, I like a few of the old Dutch breeds. One is called Schipperke. It's a little vermin dog on the canal ships. It's a little black Spitz-like dog, with it's a really, really nice breed. I like the Dutch Schmauzhorn dog a lot, but those are very, I don't even know if you know them up there. I love all the terriers, basically, from a good Patterdale to an old style Fel terrier. They're all awesome. There are a few companion breeds, sold as companion breeds, but I think this is a complete misconception of what companion breeds should be like. Saying when you got a working line Labrador, it's not a companion breed; it's a working dog. Companion breeds, I like the Australian Shepherd. I think I like that the most. It's a very intelligent dog. It puts down together. It's easy to train. It's got flashy looks. I think as a companion, a modern companion dog, that one of those will be my favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up with English Bulldogs, American Pitbull Terriers, and Pugs. I really like what the Dutch are doing with the Pugs, with their infusing terrier blood in them to correct some of the negatives that have happened the last 25, 30 years with that breed.
Yeah, that breed suffered. I have one in my dog training center. There was a guy coming to me. He wanted a puppy and he wanted a Stafford so bad, and then we had a talk with the family. They came to my house and to see, and his lady seemed to be a little bit not so sure, because some of my dogs can have a bit of a temperament, and with that comes a certain amount of responsibility. And I said, well, maybe you can do something else. And he bought himself a mix in between a Stafford and a Pug, one of those breeding from the Pug Club in the Netherlands. Man, that is an awesome little dog.
Yeah.
Really, really nice, really nice. When this COVID stuff is over and I can go back to the field, I will make you a movie of that dog.
Yeah.
And I will send it to you. You will be completely falling in love with that. If you like a Pug and a little bit the Blue Breed, it seems to have best of both worlds. There's plenty of temperament. If you say I want to go out for a hunt, a little bit of vermin around the property. If you say I want to do a little bit of modern sports, I want to do a little bit of agility in the time that I have, it will be able to do it, and still you have everything that a Blue Breed is. In what is it? In a 6 kilo package. It's fantastic. I promise you that. As soon as this is over, I will shoot you a movie of this little dog. You love him. People always have the tendency to look at what they have to consider that to be the best of it. People ask me many times about dogs because I got a lot of questions about dogs. I always say, well, something is not the best until something has proven to be the best. And there are so many awesome dogs in the field that can do a proper job. The dog world is such an interesting thing to look at and to work in. And that's very important. There's just one thing that I want to put across to you guys on your end, and that's also my opinion on here. In the past, there were dog shows. Well, they're still there, but the function of the dog shows completely has lost the plot. In the past, when they wanted to make breeds, because they made breeds, it's not something that they were automatically there. Certain areas and certain dogs for certain jobs, and then the kennel club came, and in the late 1800s, and what they did is they put up rules, and they say if you wanted to have it from this breed, and then came this stupid nazistic thought from around 1900 that it has to be a pure breed. Well, like this Pug situation shows that as soon as you open it up, dog showing gets a new meaning, because you can give a breeder the space to say, okay, he has done these and these mixes to create a better type of the same breed without losing any of the characteristics that we want in it to have a breed. So it would really be wise for all the kennel clubs to say, okay, in certain amounts of time, say for a decade, we open the stud register, and we open the book for other breeds to be mixed in other dogs. And then the breeders, it's up to the breeders to say, okay, we need to create in this gene pool the same as what we've always had. It would do dog showing very good. It would do many breeds very good, and it would leave breeders a much more interesting world to breed in. They should. Well, Stafford can do a lot of good in many breeds when they are under a certain size. But also for Staffords, it has to be realized that there are only two strains of Staffords. So all the others, they were not as successful on dog showing, and they became extinct. So we have a little bit of what in our breed is known as an R line, back to Ribchester dogs back in the day in England, and we've got M line going back to Brindle Mick. Mm-hmm. Those are two lines in size, and they are still around. Well, that's the only two lines that they keep going on, mm-hmm. and basically that's quite narrow. If you want to have a healthy breed, it's much more better if you can say, okay, we had the 6, 7, 8, 9 lines, and we can completely mix it with. Mm-hmm. But when they do not open it, it will only become more and more narrow and narrow, because the M line was the most successful in dog showing, and with us the majority of our dogs is R line. But it's all the same. It will narrow and narrow and narrow and narrow. Mm-hmm. And people don't find any jobs for the dogs anymore, so they do not know the true value of their dogs anymore. Right. Meaning that it's on a downhill. It's on a downhill. And I think that's the biggest concern in breeding dogs, and for breeders these days, that somebody can say, well, the dog won a dog show, and we say, okay, what's the value of that? Because it means that somebody says, like for instance here in the Netherlands, when you go to a dog show and your dog wins his class, he is in that class with 3 other dogs, but he still receives for instance the youth CC for youth championship, and then the dog becomes a youth champion. What is the value of that? Mm-hmm. You know, right. It does not mean it's the best out of it. It can as well be the least worst out of it, and that still means that it should not be bred from. So the selections people can choose from are so small. There's so less people involved in testing the ability of the dog. That should be done much more. And we do that with our event that we do each Easter, the DSA, and we have an online competition going on. But COVID-19 puts a scratch to a lot. But after this, we will continue that, and that's a worldwide competition where people can join to test their bull and terriers and say, okay, I got a pitbull. Let's see if I can beat one of Marco's dogs in the Netherlands. They are more welcome to give that a go, mm-hmm. and I look forward to the dogs that actually do, because it means that gives me a challenge. And when I have that challenge, I'm aiming for better, healthier dogs. And then when I can defeat somebody else can say, damn, Marco has won. I'm going to give him a competition. I need to breed a dog in which I can beat him. In a couple of years, I will pass him by. And that spirit is very good. But it has to be on in a level where dogs are not compared on their looks, but their dogs have to be compared to their ability. Who cares if a border collie has complete erect ears, or one ear is falling down? When the dog when the ear is falling down is better at herding, it's the better border collie. Yeah, that's because that's what they ought to do. It's not. You understand what I mean? It's not the number of white in the neck that makes the border collie. It's the way it hurts. So people in border collies should challenge each other, saying, "I got the best herding dog."
Yeah, I completely agree.
That's what necessary. That's what absolutely necessary.
No, I completely agree.
The guy that founded the Staffords Club of America, I think, where did he come from? Well, I had a few conversations with him back in the day, mm-hmm. and he had a nice vision. Steve Stone, his name was, I reckon, mm-hmm. something like that. And he had a good vision on Staffordshire Bull Terriers. He was in contact with the breeders in England. But the United States, one of the most important things in the United States at the moment is how dogs do at dog shows. Yeah. And the way the breed standard is written down for the Staffordshire Bull Terrier is very, very open to exaggerations. When a breed standard says broad skull, what does that mean? What does a broad skull mean? That in no time that skull becomes huge.
Right.
And if the skull becomes huge and you want it in balance, the chest becomes huge. And then when you have a weight clause that doesn't suit the size, you end up with these ridiculously heavy dogs. Mm-hmm. And then when judges, I once bred a dog. This is a story. This is a dog. I bred it. I'm responsible for it. I bred a dog, and the name of the dog was Quinlent Holy Moses. And the dog was called Holy Moses because when he came out of his mom, he was huge. Mm-hmm. He had a head the size of a basketball. Mm-hmm. And from behind that head, the dog was completely balanced towards the size of the head. Mm-hmm. I never had more mating requests for a dog than for that one, and I refused to send that dog up for stud to anyone because that is absolutely not what this breed should be about. Mm-hmm. So. The Staffordshire Bull Terrier is the fighting dog of England. It's not, and there were no sumo wrestlers in England. You don't know what I mean? Yeah. It's the fighting dog of England, which means they need to have a lot of air. They are very much comparable. The American pitbull terrier originated from the dogs we now call Staffordshire Bull Terriers, and the bull terrier mixes from England. Mm-hmm. So. Basically, the difference is in the size, mm-hmm. and that should be the only difference. The difference in between a good functional American Pit Bull Terrier and a good functional Staffordshire Bull Terrier should be the size. And there's a thing to that. When you read the history of dog fighting in England, for instance, you can see that the RSPCA got instructions to check child cards. Women pushing child cars to the street to check if there was not a fighting dog wounded underneath the blanket. So the dogs couldn't be too big. If they had a fight for their sports back in the day, somewhere in a railway wagon, and they had to drag it back home, you have to understand that it couldn't be 22 kilos. You know, the lightest were easier. The Stafford was a poor man's dog, mm-hmm. and something. This is an insight that I got when I came into Czech Republic for the first time, and I think it was about 15 years ago, and I was talking to the guy on the camping. No, it's longer. I think it's 15 years ago. I talked to the guy on the camping. He had a litter of little Chihuahuas, and I was there with one of my dogs, and so we start talking dogs. And I said, well, what nice. And I admired the little Chihuahuas. The Chihuahua is a fantastic breed, by the way. Yeah, really, really brave. In my dog center, the fastest dog on an agility track at the moment is a Chihuahua. Yeah. Really, really fantastic little heroes they are. Anyway, we started talking, and he said, his other daughter had a litter of Swiss Senhounds. It's a big Swiss breed. And he said, well, it was too bad. She had a litter of 7. I said, well, that's nice. And it's a good litter. He said, she had to put down 4. Mm. And I said, why did she have to put down 4? He said, well, you had to put down 4 because you can't find any people in Czech that wants to feed such a big dog because they are too expensive. Yeah. Now, that was Czech Republic 15 years ago. Right. That was 2005. Right. Now go back to England, 1918. Right. Go back to 1910 or something like that, when the average weight of a person was in 1880, it was about 40 pounds per annum. Right. How much money were they going to spend on feeding a dog? So the dog in England could never be bigger. Right. They were talking in the differences in the original sports of these breeds. In England, they were putting money on the side of a fight, and they would say 25 pounds. And in the same time, in the United States, they were already fighting dogs for $10,000 a side. Right. There's a completely different development But in the end, they're still the same dogs. And for an English person, it was very interesting and very important that the dog could do everything, but he wasn't too big and he didn't consume too much. Mm-hmm. While in the United States, where the country on its own provides a lot more, the dog could be a little bit bigger. And a little bit bigger. I remember the first American Staffords that we had and the first pitbulls that we had. They were, when you had 149 at the shoulder, it was a big one. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And today it is. I've seen not so long ago. I've seen an American Staffordshire Terrier of almost 60 centimeters.
Yeah.
So something's going wrong, if you know what I mean. Yeah. For a Staffy, it should be. Staffy is a pocket-sized pit bull, and that's how you should look at them. That's how you should admire them, mm-hmm. and that's how you should have your responsibility with them. And the pit bulls, the size that they are going up today it's also ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And then I've not too long ago I had a little contact with a breeder here in the Netherlands, and they breed absolutely fantastic pit bulls. And he came up with a female, 45 centimeters, old school, all nice, old style American pit bull terrier, the way we seen them back in the 80s, early 90s here in the Netherlands. Mm-hmm. And man, that dog could move and perform. It was absolutely a joy to watch. If you looked at that, if you see what they're doing with the XXL bullies and everything today, and the exaggeration that people project, I think that the majority of people involved in pit bulls should go back on TV and enjoy Dragon Ball Z, rather than that they would go out and put all these fantasies on these dogs. You know, that is a little bit the point, Sean, where the value of these athletics that we do kick in.
Yeah.
What has proven over the years, and we have done it with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dogs, and we have always kept up the records. The dogs that do good, they automatically look like these old school breeds they were back in the day. They're not any of these modern exaggerations that you see today that could come and compete in any sense. So. The Dutch Stafford Athletics and the Stafford Olympics in the later stage I have developed to keep the breed type as it is, rather than to follow the changes it was up to. And when you look at it as a breed perspective, you can't change the breed, because the original task of the breed has become illegal. Mm-hmm. So when dog fighting is illegal, you can't change the breed, because there's no reason where you can say this quality does better than we had in the past. So it has to be the same. And in Staffords, what you said, I was very pleased to hear what you said, that you had the differences in line, but they did not go over that amount of weight. You could see the influence of the individual breeders who was breeding the strains, and you could say, okay, and you could recognize it. You knew when you got an American Staffordshire Terrier from White Rock in Dallas. You knew how it would look like, because the guy had a certain vision and his dogs followed that. That's the same for the kennel you had back in the day known as Tacoma. They were producing a certain type. It could be an expert, it could be a Colby, and then when you looked at it, you knew where the dog was coming from. Mm-hmm. But when you put them all in a row, there was no doubt, even with these differences, that we were talking about the same breed. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes, from a genetic point of view, it becomes so very interesting, because try to see it like this: is when genetic diversity is the key to health, then the more differences you have, the more diversity you have, the healthier your breed can stay. Mm-hmm. So, which means that you have to look at these breeds, and people have to build on strains again, like they did back in the old day, rather than they go after one winner to follow another winner, trying to get a rosette. You must say, no, I'm going to do the long way. I'm going to build a strain of dogs that suit my purpose. And then you come to the true purpose of what at this moment is still very popular in countries like the United States. The competitive dog showing is not the purposeful. Is not purposeful for the dog. It's purposeful for the people's wallets.
Right.
And they should try to understand is that the best Labrador Retriever is the dog that does the best retrieving.
Right.
And that's where the value should point at. And Labrador Retrievers should say to other breeders, you can win the show, but can you beat my dog in the field?
Right.
And then we get somewhere. Then we get somewhere. Then we say, okay, listen, we got a dog show. We got some certain kind of experts saying, okay, this dog is sound to us, what the breed is after. And then we got the people in the field saying, okay, and it works good. Now, when you got a dog that is sound, conform the breed standard and the work, I would go for that dog immediately, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And I 100%.
And that's for all dogs. And for all breeds.
Yep, absolutely.
I prefer a complete raw diet, which means from a good brand, and I like to mix the brands, combined with a little bit of kibble and fruit, a little bit of green vegetables, stuff like that, and each dog differently. I do not feed one dog the same.
It just depends.
I do not feed one dog the same. It really depends on what the dog needs. Some dogs they need a little bit more nutrition. Other dogs need a little bit more proteins. Other dogs need a little bit more fat because their metabolism is just a little bit faster and they get skinny. There's not one rule to feed best. Feed best is look at your dog and try to get the best out of it in a food perspective. A good basic kibble is always handy to have around. From the kibble, I prefer a cold pressed kibble. I do not like the expanded, the extruded kind of pellet that they sell these days. I prefer the cold pressed ones. And as long as it contains the vitamins and the minerals, then it's good. Then it's good.
It's been good talking to you, and I had fun listening.
Good. I hope it can be of help, and I hope that the people that listen to it just enjoy my point of view of things. Yep. And that's about it, mate.
Thank you very much, Marco. We'll talk to you soon.
You're welcome. You're welcome, mate. I'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.